This is the biggest pack of gray sharks on Earth. 700 of them. These awesome predators gather under the full moon for a single purpose: to feed. Now, a team of scientists is diving in, using state-of-the-art tech to capture the epic hunt like never before, and find out what really goes on inside this massive shark swarm. "700 gray sharks live in the middle of the vast Pacific Ocean, around an island invisible from space. About 250 miles from the island of Tahiti, the atoll of Fakarava. The atoll is a ring of coral pierced by breaches that link the lagoon to the ocean. The deepest of these are called channels. Hidden away in Fakarava's southernmost channel is the world's densest population of gray reef sharks. 700 of them live right here in this valley of coral, classified as a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. Much of their behavior is a mystery. What attracts them here in such huge numbers? Are there leaders whom the rest follow? A team of more than 20 divers and scientists are here to find out. Leading the team is biologist and photographer Laurent Ballesta. Laurent and his team have been here before, 4 years ago, to check out rumors of vast schools of thousands of groupers coming here to reproduce during the June full moon, which acts as a signal to them to start laying their eggs. The rumor was true. The Fakarava Channel is the site of one of the largest aggregations in the world, 17,000 groupers. Inevitably, they drew the sharks. There were so many of the predators that the team kept counting and recounting them. One camera traveled the whole length of the southern channel, about half a mile. The footage revealed an astonishing count of 700, 705 to be precise. That's the highest density anyone's ever seen. Laurent and his team's curiosity is stronger than their fear. They decided to scout the location at night amidst hundreds of sharks.
Ce qu'on s'est aperçu quand on a découvert les lieux, c'est que les requins qui étaient rassemblés en pleine eau la journée, tout à coup ils descendaient sur le fond, commençaient à marauder dans tous les sens sur le fond de la passe. On n'osait pas s'approcher de cette meute. On restait au-dessus, 10 mètres au-dessus, on l'a filmé de loin. On était là, les genoux sous les épaules, tellement on craignait tout ce qui pouvait dépasser de mâchoires de cette meute rassemblée comme une boule de requin impénétrable. On a commencé à oser descendre un peu sur les bords. On gardait toujours nos distances, mais on se rapprochait un peu du fond. Mais ça reste impénétrable. Qu'est-ce qui se passe ici, là, au plein milieu de la meute, quand on est autour? En étant à ce niveau-là, c'est arrivé quelquefois qu'on commence à se faire bousculer par les requins.
Oh putain! Oh le con!
Et on s'est aperçu que nous n'étions pas des cibles, nous étions juste des obstacles. C'est là qu'on s'est dit qu'il y avait un semblant d'organisation sociale. C'est là qu'on s'est dit qu'on avait l'impression de voir des stratégies chez les proies très différentes. Ça nous a fait naître plein d'intuitions. Moi, ce que je veux maintenant, c'est que ces intuitions se transforment en convictions, peut-être même en réalité scientifique.
Laurent hopes to prove that the sharks are much smarter than we think. The next few days are critical. The June full moon will trigger the grouper gathering. That's when the sharks will go on the rampage. The moon is a ticking clock for both the scientists and the fish. A countdown to a massacre. 700 sharks aren't gathering at Fakarava by chance. They're here because of the history of this island. Knowing the geological past reveals the biological present. Fakarava was born around 70 million years ago. No sooner had the volcano surged up from the depths of the Pacific Ocean than the reef started colonizing its shoreline. Soon, the island was surrounded by a ring of coral. In the north, the fresh water from the rivers stopped the coral from growing there, which left a gap in the reef almost 2 miles wide. Its fires extinct, over the next 2 million years, the volcano disappeared, while the reef kept on growing. But it still bears the imprint of the ancient rivers, the channels. The pass in the north takes the brunt of the tides, so the residual current that reaches the south channel here is gentle. This easy current is a real boon. It's weak enough for the coral to develop and provide shelter for fish, yet it's strong enough to allow a constant flow of food for everyone. Sharks thrive in this current too. By day, they use it to rest. By night, they use it to hunt. This perfectly adapted current is the first clue to understanding why sharks gather here. But to see the whole picture, Laurent needs to dissect the predator's movements. He's tasked 3 scientists to create a 3D model to help him do just that. They'll begin by placing antennas down at the bottom of the pass.
The strength of the current isn't equal. If we know approximately where they are in the channel and how active they are, and we have some understanding of current strength, then we can really see how their behavior varies.
Based on the range testing we did, we probably need to space the receivers about 100 meters apart.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now we're trying to find the best position for these acoustic receiver to make sure that we're going to get the tag sharks where the sharks are spending most of their time, so on the hot spots around the walls, but also where they're going to be hunting at night, so we can compare the activity during the day and the night.
We have a big school of sharks usually staying here, all along this place, so all these receivers can get the detection.
Cool. We just have to deploy them now.
They have to get government permission to install 25 antennas, since the sharks here are protected by law.
22 is 101799. 113122.
But installing 25 antennas is the easy part.
115334.
The next step is to equip 40 sharks with electronic chips so they can track their every move. The gray sharks are keeping their distance. Like the divers, they're cautious. These predators are also prey to 13-foot-long hammerheads.
Good with that. So we have the VHF works just fine.
With the antennas installed, it's time to figure out how to plant the chips in the sharks' abdomens. The chips will let the scientists know exactly when the predators go into action, whether they sometimes leave the channel, and if all 700 act as one or independently.
It's pretty handy to have a shark right here.
Yeah.
Very handy, this all.
If everything goes as planned, they'll be able to track the movements of each shark. And the team has another tool at its disposal, a spy camera covered in sensors, ready to be attached to a shark.
Well, let's try it and see.
This is Yanis's first dive. At night, into the middle of the pack. He and Laurent are going to test placing the spy camera on a shark using a surprising technique. But the sharks may not cooperate. Scientists in the Pacific atoll of Fakarava have to work in the dark because the sharks are too cautious during the day and unapproachable. At night, they're emboldened by the hunt. Research has shown that turning a shark over on its back puts it into a hypnotized cataleptic state. But that was done with sharks familiar with divers and fed by them. Now Laurent and his team are testing it here amid a feeding frenzy. Amazingly, the immobilization technique works. This is one circus move that could end up scientific protocol.
Allez la caméra. Allez la caméra. On s'en plaisir. Vraiment revenir après.
They need a big shark to carry the camera. Coordination between the two scientists is crucial. Each shark reacts differently. Some won't be hypnotized, and that's when they might bite. Yanis thinks this one's too small. Laurent lets it go. While they're searching for a larger shark, a never-before-documented hunt is going on. It's a moray eel. A lone gray shark will never attack a moray eel this big. But together, this pack doesn't hesitate. After 2 hours, Yanis and Laurent give up. It's too difficult to attach the camera. They need to find another way, and soon. Back at HQ, Yanis screens the first images. Something strikes him. It looks like the sharks might form partnerships to hunt in pairs.
One of the most fascinating things about the sharks in Fakarava Channel is the social systems of the sharks themselves. The question is, why do they form these social associations? By remaining close to each other, one shark could see another shark taking some prey and benefit from that. So if you imagine there's a reef fish here, one shark sees it, charges, goes after the reef fish, it escapes, another shark sees that shark chasing the reef fish, then it sees the reef fish, and it actually successfully gets it. By hanging out close to each other, I can see if you get some food or chase some prey, and that can benefit me. Very simple, but that could still drive us forming social associations.
There might be something to this partnership theory, but it uncovers more mysteries to solve. Are the pairs partners or rivals? Does a pair always hunt together? Do they hunt every night? A shark only needs from 7 to 9 pounds of fish a week, so theoretically, it doesn't need to go hunting every 24 hours. The electronic chips may help the team find answers, but only if they can find a way to attach them to these deadly predators. Everywhere else in the world, scientists fish for sharks with hook and line in order to mark them. But here in Fakarava Atoll, the scientists have decided to immobilize them by hand and then lasso them to get them up next to the boat. Nobody's ever tried this old cowboy technique on a gray reef shark before, only on white-tip reef sharks. It's much less invasive for the shark, but there's a high risk of someone getting bitten. One problem with hypnosis is the creature's weight. If a shark's not swimming, it sinks. So if you immobilize one, it tends to drop down, bringing its jaws right up against your legs. Laurent's taken it on as a challenge. He's determined to get it done.
Okay, Yanni, to do the slack, you can do the slack.
Yeah.
Your hand. Watch out, Yanni, I'm going to put it on the other side. Watch out, watch out.
Yeah, here.
Good, good. Back at the move. Got one, guys, we on. A bit more indeed. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Wait.
Oh, there goes the...
Good boy. It's going to touch again. There you go.
There we go.
Close.
Donc lorsqu'on retourne le requin, en fait, ça le calme et ça nous permet de travailler beaucoup plus sereinement. Aussi pour le requin, il est beaucoup moins stressé en fait lorsqu'il est à l'envers.
Yannis tries to implant the first electronic chip.
The surface of the skin is very hard.
There's a lot of really thick muscle layer until you get into the body cavity. So, although these incisions look quite dramatic, there's a few things to keep in mind. First of all is that sharks naturally have pretty violent lives, especially when they mate. So the male will bite the female, and the females in particular can get pretty torn up. So we get females with huge scars, much larger than anything we're inflicting with this blade. So they're naturally adapted to having a lot of damage. And because of that, they have very impressive immune systems and very fast healing rates. So we have caught sharks a couple days after tagging, and the wound is already healed up.
Yes, you can let go. Yep. 1, 2, 3. Flip it on turn down. Flip it. And let it go. Right, so perfect. At least we know she's healthy.
The team hopes to tag at least 40 sharks and then follow them for a whole year. They'll know everything the sharks get up to, if they leave the channel or stay there, if they hunt every night, if they all hunt together, and if they're influenced by the lunar cycles. But tagging 40 sharks is easier said than done. Here in the Fakarava Channel, scientists are tagging sharks using a lasso technique, while trying to avoid being attacked by other sharks.
One, two, three.
Oh, there goes the...
On a soit une morsure de reproduction, soit une morsure lors des attaques des proies, où ils peuvent se mordre entre eux.
Here's a male, guys. First male.
This shark's bigger, so Yanis will try to attach the spy camera.
Come back to me.
Bang it out. Yeah.
Good? Yeah. Okay.
That's the best way to do it.
Okay. Push forward your hand and let go.
They've tagged 9 sharks on the first night, but they're still a long way from their goal of 40. The team's been counting the sharks every 3 days. 416, then 480, 520. The number keeps rising as the full moon approaches. By day, the sharks form 3 groups that the divers call walls, an expression coined by explorers in the 1960s who were the first to see hundreds of sharks lined up like this. The walls form at very precise locations. For 4 years, Laurent's team has been observing that the sharks rest on veins of current in the channel. Whenever they leave the vein of current, others come in to replace them, just like migrating birds in V formations. They only stop to get their teeth cleaned by the cleaner fish. The scientists discover that the camera has fallen off the shark. Yanis Papastamatiu looks for clues to the pack's behavior.
So one of the things we can see when we take a look at this video is that our shark carrying the camera is often associating with this individual here with the damaged dorsal fin. So that may mean that there may be some form of social bond between those 2 sharks. And next we want to know if that also applies at night. So do these animals, for example, form social bonds while they are hunting?
It's almost the full moon. So it's time to deploy Laurent's most complex brainchild. This arch combines both photography and video in order to capture the hunt at 1/100th of a second, and then, with its 32 synchronized cameras, move around inside the 3D image. The team has no idea what the sharks will make of this high-tech stranger. The first shots are taken in daytime amidst all the fish. But only the oncoming darkness will reveal what happens when 700 sharks become 700 hunters. In daylight, results from the shark scientists' 3D arch look promising. Now they must wait for light to turn to night. The channel is not so much a well-stocked pantry. It's more like a conveyor belt of food rolling ever faster as the June full moon approaches. There's enough prey now to feed a lot of hungry sharks. One after another, dozens of species of fish from the lagoon are arriving to the channel as if to a prearranged rendezvous. They're all getting into place at the ocean gate to give their larvae a chance of survival far from all of the predators of the reef. They are ready to launch their spawn into the current and out to sea. For the moment, there are only a few grouper fish in the channel, but soon there will be as many as 17,000. And the sharks know it. This honeymoon is about to turn into a bloodbath. Just days until the 700 shark feeding frenzy. Scientists prepare to document the spectacular event. While Antonin and Thibault work on the arch, it's Yanis's last night on the mission. He's at last placing the 40th and final electronic tag. As the darkness of night falls, the fish are half asleep and less aware of danger. That's when a shark makes its move. The high-speed video reveals the different phases of an attack. The sharks are obviously attracted by sound. Vision helps too, but here in the shadows, the shark has a special advantage. It can detect the electromagnetic field of the fish with the aid of sensitive cells all around its mouth, called ampullae of Lorenzini. The electrical stimulation only works up to a foot from the shark's mouth. The more agitated the fish, the more intense its electromagnetic field. If it could play dead, the shark would think it was an inanimate object and ignore it. On its own, a shark is clumsy. It's at its best in a pack, with everyone moving together. The images reveal that 25% of the pack's attempts are successful. Compare that to a pack of wolves, renowned for its efficiency, that only catches 14% of its prey. The photos show them encircling their prey to cut off any escape. Teamwork is clearly an advantage. Once the prey's cornered, though, it's a different story. Every shark demands their share. At Fakarava, there's no lack of prey, so it's not a problem. Sooner or later, every one of those snapping jaws will be fed. But jaws are useless if the prey stays hidden. The team makes a remarkable observation. The gray sharks follow the white-tipped sharks, also known as coral sharks, who, with their ability to slip into holes and come out again backwards, are the only ones who can flush out prey hiding in the reef. It's a new and enlightening facet of their behavior. This shark pack can exploit the skills of another species. The chips on the tagged sharks send information each time they pass close to one of the many antennas. After a week, Johan and Antona collect the data to assess it. The antennas will be returned each night to continue the tracking.
Donc il y a une couleur différente pour chacun des requins qu'on a marqués.
Voilà. La journée, ils sont vraiment deux groupes. Un groupe qui vraiment reste sur la...
Côté océan
sur le tombant. Et après, on a un groupe qui est beaucoup plus mobile, qui lui, utilise surtout ça la journée, toute cette zone. Et en fait, la nuit, il s'avance beaucoup plus dans cette zone. Et aussi, ce qu'on va pouvoir voir, c'est est-ce qu'il y a des leaders. On voit qu'il y a des groupes de requins qui bougent un peu ensemble, donc voir si c'est toujours le même qui lance le déplacement.
With only 3 days until the full moon, the team makes their final preparations. The Arch will make its debut among hundreds of sharks, right in the middle of a massive shark attack. As night falls 2 days before the full moon, the sharks seem undisturbed by the Arch and just keep on hunting right under the divers' feet. It's becoming clear that whether they're resting during the day or on the attack at night, the sharks form partnerships, subgroups that work together. High-speed footage from the Arch reveals what happens at the heart of an attack. The shark on the right is driving the prey straight towards the other. Slow motion reveals hunting duos. In addition to the pack's overall synchronization, they seem to have a deeper level of organization based on either momentary or more durable mutual interests. The prey can escape once, maybe twice, but not forever. In fact, this coordination is a mixture of cooperation and competition. They watch more than they help each other. But it works. If one doesn't win out, the other does. Nearly 600 sharks hunt here now. The ranks of the predators are swelling every night.
On fait partie de la meute.
C'est la sensation que j'ai eue.
Et dedans, et avec eux. À un moment donné, t'as envie d'en prendre 2 en accolade comme ça et de continuer avec eux. Hein?
Il y en avait partout, ils nous ont pas lâchés.
J'ai l'impression qu'il y en a chaque année un peu plus.
Des petits, il y a beaucoup de petits.
Et voilà, il y a plein de petits qui sont gros comme ça là.
J'ai l'impression qu'il y en a un qui t'a dit papa.
Je n'osais pas le dire.
For 50 nights they've been diving, and now on the 51st, it's the day before the full moon, the most important night for the sharks and for Laurent and his team. The surveillance camera gives the go-ahead. And just like every year at the same time, the groupers are back. They're solitary all year round, but get together for the annual spawn. No one misses the date, the full moon in June, and you don't need to study the stars to see that all the females are pregnant. This is the day the sharks have been waiting for. All 700 of them. Tonight we'll put to the test all the latest theories about how the pack functions. The attack will come from within the channel, where the sharks are resting. The countdown to a massacre has begun. The groupers come here to reproduce once a year, entirely driven by instinct. While waiting for the females to spawn, the males hide. Don't hide, and you're dead. Night is falling now. The pack is waking up, and they're hungry. "700 sharks swarm their prey. A tornado of jaws followed by a rain of scales. It's a deadly roundabout. Electroreceptors help the sharks zero in on prey. For the groupers, this is the price they pay to spawn the next generation. Though the sharks hunt in a pack, they don't like to share. Some bear deep scars, perhaps from battles with other sharks at the hunt. This grouper has managed to slip through 3 sets of jaws, but not the 4th. A parrotfish, half asleep, bumps into a coral shark. In its haste, the gray shark bites the coral shark, and the parrotfish escapes. Weighed down by her huge belly, a female can't get away. Her eggs are scattered and lost. At midnight, the full moon is at its zenith and lights up the whole ocean bed. But by 5 in the morning, it's low on the horizon, and the sharks are all left in the dark, exhausted. The hunt finally eases. The groupers know it, and the spawning begins. In the darkness, the sharks seem less alert. The lights from the cameras don't affect them. They're too patchy. Sharks have evolved into the ultimate predators, but their prey has evolved too. The groupers, with speed and perfect timing, have learned to spawn at this opportune moment. Both prey and predator have strengths and weaknesses. The groupers are less vulnerable than the biologists imagined, and sometimes the sharks fail to hit their target. Four months have gone by since the start of the mission, and the electronic tags continue to reveal the secrets of the shark pack. They seem to obey some rules. By day, they stay in 3 groups, make their rounds, and sleep a bit. They begin to form pairs. As night falls, they band together for the hunt, forging partnerships that persist for the night, like subunits within the pack, although it does not mean these pairings will be the same on the next night. This behavior has never been documented before. 3,000 hours of underwater filming reveals for the first time that a big school of gray sharks is more deadly than a pack of wolves. Even more remarkable and never before revealed, the shark's activity follows the lunar cycle much more than it follows the abundance of prey. The level of moonlight determines the intensity of the hunt. And come morning, the sharks all return to their respective walls. With the exception of at least 2 of the tagged 40, who leave the channel and to this day have never returned. There are still mysteries to be solved in the Fakarava channel. But one thing is clear. In these pristine waters, gray sharks rule.